Bienvenido al Regalo de Vivir, un espacio donde abrimos el corazón para hablar de sanación, medicina ancestral y el viaje profundo del alma. Soy Valeria Reyes y hoy te invito a conectar con una historia que podría transformar la tuya. Hola, soy Valeria y antes de que empiece este episodio quiero compartirte que esta conversación toca temas muy sensibles como el suicidio y traumas profundos. Sarah Mendiola nos comparte su historia y cómo es que regresó a la vida gracias a una terapia que se conoce como Ketamina y también el Muay Thai. Es una persona con muchísima valentía y te invito a escucharla con el corazón abierto, con respeto, y si estás atravesando un momento difícil, recuerda que no estás solo. Hola a todos, bienvenidos al podcast El Regalo de Vivir. Yo soy su host, Valeria Reyes, y creadora del canal Valeria Te Ayuda. Hoy tengo el placer de compartir una conversación muy interesante y muy impactante con Sarah Mendiola. Ella es de aquí de Estados Unidos, así que la conversación va a ser en inglés, pero no se preocupen porque voy a poner la transcripción en mi página web, valeriateayuda.com, y también voy a poner subtítulos si estás viendo esto en YouTube. Sarah nos va a platicar sobre su experiencia en su aventura de sanación. She's going to be sharing with us her healing adventure, how she has discovered alternative therapies to treat depression. She's a nurse, and she has been on this field over 15 years, 18 years actually. Is that? Yeah,
Yes.
18 years.
Mhm.
And she how discovered another therapy that is called ketamine, and she's going to be sharing more about that with all of us.
Mhm.
And yeah, I would love all of you to hear her story. She has an incredible energy, and I'm really grateful to have it connected with her just not long ago. And so here we are. And why don't you tell us about yourself,
Mhm.
a bit of your
Yeah.
background, and
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. So my name is Sarah Mendiola. I have been a nurse for about 18 years now. I used to work in the intensive care unit in the hospital and in the operating room, as well as the special procedures unit. So I have a vast medical knowledge and experience. I had to resign probably right before COVID hit. I want to say 2019, due to really deep depression that I was undergoing at the time. And that was related to the tremendous amount of trauma I had experienced. Honestly, since birth, I've been through so much, and at that point, my brain broke, and it had enough. I didn't know that could be a thing. Even as a nurse, I'd never heard of that before. I always assumed that if you were, if you had psychosis or if you had any kind of delusional thoughts, that was like something that doesn't just snap and you have it. I thought it was something that you incur as a younger person and it stays with you as a disease for the rest of your life. But unbeknownst to me, no, my brain was tired. My brain had had enough of the trauma and of the depression and of everything that I had been through. I felt broken, and I really didn't understand what was happening to me, and I really didn't have anybody to turn to, and it was an extremely scary time in my life. The hardest 2 years of my life besides the trauma that I had incurred. Um, I would say that. Um, being psychotic is extremely scary. It is like somebody took over your body and your brain, and it's not you anymore. And it was extremely difficult because even my own children couldn't recognize my face. at the time. I was completely gone. My mind was gone. And so I had to resign, from a very, prestigious job, a very important work that I had been doing for 17 years. And I was well paid with beautiful benefits. I had a home. I had everything I needed, to take care of me and my family. And when this happened to me, nobody knew that I was actually ill. I hid it so well from everybody at first that, nobody knew. And I am an amazing nurse. And so I was holding down my job and nobody was complaining about me. Nobody had an issue with me. I was, performing the way that I would normally perform. So nobody could tell. Until one day I recognized in myself, because I do have really good self-awareness, that I was going downhill fast, and I knew I was compromised, and I knew something could happen and I wasn't safe anymore. And so I made the very difficult decision to resign on my own. And it was one of the hardest decisions I've made in my life because I had no backup plan. I had no idea of what I was going to do for work or to support myself or my family, because I continue to support my disabled children and my mother. So I had no idea of what I was going to do. It was a very dark time. But I knew I had to do it. So I resigned. And then I took my pension out. And because I took it out early, I lost a lot of money. And I only had a small portion of my actual retirement plan. But I used it to live off of for a couple years. So I could focus on my mental health and get better. I had to. I was hospitalized 2 times for trying to commit suicide. And I'm lucky to be here today. And so I had to do what I had to do to survive at the time. And so after that, having taken, a sabbatical, having resigned, I took that couple of years to really try to heal myself and get better. And so I was looking, at first I was hospitalized. And so I was receiving, the proper treatment, proper medications, proper therapy, getting all of that done. But then after I kind of stabilized, and which took 2 years to stabilize, then I started looking for ways to heal that would actually, I felt would work better. And so I started looking online at treatments for depression. And that's literally how I came across ketamine myself. I was doing a Google search. And so that's where we're at.
Wow. Wow. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sarah, for sharing with all of us.
Mhm.
And when I met you, I felt a connection because I felt so much love, and
Mhm.
having gone through such a hardships and still that have that kind of love to give,
Mhm.
for me that's amazing, and I can sense how brave you are, and after having gone through all these things that you're here and sharing your story with your health up and
Mhm.
with such a conviction and such a strength. So
Mhm.
thank you. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for
Thank
doing that.
you.
And
Mhm.
and yeah, I mean, I want to say this to you
Mhm.
because when the day that we met, I recently got a surgery, and when I talked to you and seriously, you were extremely kind. I was like, I don't think I can be that kind to someone that I don't know. And you were like incredibly supportive. So thank you.
You're
It really touched me. So thank
You're
you for
very
having done that.
welcome. You're very welcome.
And coming back to your story, um, when you started having these experiences that you couldn't recognize as yourself,
Yeah.
you didn't have a name for that. But
Mhm.
how did you discover that it was a psychotic breakdown?
Mhm.
And what were the first signs that you
Yeah,
experienced?
yeah, totally. So, um, the first time that I was told it was a psychotic breakdown was when I attempted suicide, and I was actually hospitalized, and that's when the doctor, um, gave me the diagnosis and explained it to me, and that is when I couldn't believe it though, like, I couldn't I was not thinking rational at the time though, regardless, so it probably kinda went over me a little bit about everything he was trying to tell me, um, but it just shocked me that somebody, who is able to care for years for the sickest of the sick, the most vulnerable people in the world, have all this knowledge, be so strong, having survived through traumatic events in my life, and having that fortitude, like, could just break like that, and it scared me too because I didn't understand, like, how long this was going to last, if I was ever gonna get better. I was, scared for my life 24/7. I was scared of everybody and everything in the world, and, very delusional, and I had lots of, like, different, ideas about what, people were going to do to me, to hurt me. And so, that was the first time that that was told to me was by the doctor in the hospital. He also explained to me that it's not your fault, which really made me feel a little bit better about myself because I thought somehow, you always blame yourself. Like, what did I do wrong? And he was like, no, like, this is not your fault. You went through so much trauma that your brain was like, I've had enough. And that's the way he explained it to me. And he also explained to me that, yes, it is possible to heal from this. And yes, it is possible that you're going to get better and you're going to snap out of this. And so that was encouraging, that he did um, share that with me, that it is possible to heal from it. And sure enough, he's right, because 'cause I'm 100% back now. So,
Amazing. Wow.
yeah, and the signs, um, for a loved one, if you're watching your family member, I would say the signs are if your family member starts to do things abnormal, that they're not normal for them to do. If they start, so for me, like, I started to um, say that I was seeing things, and I wasn't really seeing things, I take that back. I didn't have visuals. I was seeing things in normal objects. Like, my mind would make it into something important. Let me give you an example. So, if I was looking and this was a big deal for me at the time, was looking and analyzing car license plates. So if I would see a license plate on a car and, some of them have words,
Yes.
right? But even the numbers, like, I would come up with scenarios in my mind about how that is a communication to me
Okay.
from whoever, and I would, make up stories about it. So there was a lot of storytelling. And so, like, if your family is talking about, like, seeing or hearing things, or if they're acting delusional, like, they're telling you that there's somebody after them, or they're starting to look very tired and they're not sleeping well, that's another sign too. If they're not as talkative, if they're withdrawn, because maybe they don't wanna share what they're experiencing, they might be very withdrawn. Those are some signs. The big one is trying to commit suicide. You know, just really abrupt changes in behavior and some oddities. That is the way that I would describe it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
how were you able to hide it for so long? Were you
Mhm.
aware that what you were
Mhm.
the patterns and the things that you were
Mhm.
sort of like drawn to do were not normal?
Yes,
So you
yes.
could differentiate.
Yeah, I could. And luckily, I do have really great self-awareness most of the time. And so, because and I've always been like that, even since a kid, like, because I wanna do the right thing. I'm always, like, very judicial, like, I can't stand injustice. I wanna be correct with people. I wanna be honest with people, and so, like, I'm very cognizant of
Mhm.
my actions and my behavior because I care so much, about other people, and I think a lot of people have that, to different levels people have it at, but I'm pretty strong with it, and so, I started noticing that I was just scared of everybody at work, and I was frightened, and that was, like, the first things that were hitting me, and I was starting to, connect things that made no sense together, like the license plate thing. I was starting to make up stories about it and trying to it's all a storyline for
Okay.
me in my mind. That's exactly what I went through. It's like everything was a storyline. I would make up stories, delusional, like, conspiracies. They were conspiracies about me, it kind of like that. And so that I started to notice, that it was getting worse and I was getting more and more afraid, and even of patients. And so that's when I was like, no, like I can't, like, I'm not really functioning anymore. The amount of stress that I was under was like too much. Like, I could tell at that point something was really wrong when I was starting to get paranoid of my patients, and then I was like, "No, this is not okay."
Hmm. I
Mhm,
see.
mhm, mhm,
So after you went to the first doctor,
mhm.
was that the first attempt on taking your life?
Yeah,
And then you got the help,
mhm,
but then I guess it didn't work out long term
mhm.
because it did you try to take your life again?
I did,
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
did, yeah,
What brought you there,
mhm.
if may I ask?
Yeah, so, I had delusions about killing myself. And, to actually protect myself from the I had these ideas that I was going to be harmed very badly, so I better take my life now before they get to me, the people. Like, I didn't know. Like, and so it's like, I need to do something now and take my own life, or to protect or also to protect my kids, because I thought if I was still here, like, they were gonna hurt my kids. And so that was the storyline that was in my head.
I
Yeah.
see.
So the first time I attempted, I overdosed, on my anxiety medication, and, that was the first attempt. Um And then the subsequent one was about, I wanna say 2 months later. For that one, I actually heard a voice in my head, and it was not my voice. It was very scary, and it instructed me what to do. It told me to go to the sink and get a knife and slit my wrist, And so I was over the sink with the knife, and I was starting to bleed a little bit. I had it right there on my artery, and unfortunately, I know where the arteries are because I'm a nurse. So I had it over the artery. I was drawing a little bit of blood, and then the voice came back again, and it said, "See what we can do to you. Don't fuck with us." And that's the voice. That was what I heard in my head. And so I wanted help. And I took myself to the hospital at that point, and I was like, "I need help, like, I'm scared." And yeah, so mhm.
When you went the second time to the doctor and did you continue with the treatments that they were giving you?
I did, yeah,
And then
yeah,
you said they were doing that for a couple years
yeah,
and you stabilized.
yes,
Okay.
mhm,
And then you went to
mhm,
try out
mhm,
ketamine for depression
mhm,
because
mhm,
you were still experiencing depression regardless
yes,
of the
mhm.
treatments that you were receiving.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
my underlying diagnosis was always depression, very deep depression, major depression.
Okay.
And I probably had that since I was a child, just because of my, trauma that I had incurred. And so, I was literally looking, like I said, I was doing a Google search for treatments, for depression because the medications they gave me weren't really helpful and they had a lot of side effects, but I stuck with the medication. Like, I was good about taking them, but it just wasn't doing it for me. And I kind of felt hopeless. And so I knew I needed to do something more. Like, I knew in my heart that this was not the answer for me. Just, me and myself. Like, I knew myself, and I'm like, this is not really working as well as I would like it to, and I wanna get better faster, honestly. Um, and so did the Google search, I read about ketamine, and I was impressed, by its ability to help you to heal, and so that's when I started getting treatment.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Over here in San Diego.
In
So you
San Diego. Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
How was your
Mhm.
experience with ketamine
Amazing.
from the first
Amazing.
time?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely amazing. I have been getting treatment with ketamine for probably, like, 4 years now, and it literally has saved my life. Um, I now very infrequently am depressed. I feel very stable. I have no more issues, with the psychosis. I feel very stable, and I have a resilience, a mental resilience in me and ability to cope that I wish I had when I was a kid. I really do, because it would have changed the trajectory of my life if I had that ability, but now I have it. And it the ketamine, what it's done for me is it has, like I just said, it has helped me to be very resilient with any kind of stress that I'm under. I can manage it so much better now and understand that things are temporary and you can get through it. Your life is hard and you're going to have ups and downs, but it's okay. You can get through it, and being able to cope with situations you know, and so and feeling better. Like, like I said, my depression, I still have a little bit of depression, and it mostly hits when I'm PMSing, and having my cycle. But, it's pretty normal for me, and it doesn't last very long, and it's never as deep, um, or hard, as it used to be. Um, so I'm a lot happier, and, like, it's just like I said, it's changed my life. Definitely for some folks, and I'm one of them, that I feel like I get very anxious with the ketamine and being in an altered state because with the ketamine, you are in an altered state. So you're on a journey while you're in the medicine. And for some people, like you can feel kind of anxious about it because it's very hard to describe the ketamine journey, to be very honest. It's one of those things that you have to experience yourself because the journey is very abstract.
Okay.
There's a lot of like moving parts to it. You feel like you're moving, you feel like you leave your body, and your soul or your mind is kind of traveling, through different planes or different dimensions. You feel like there's like some kind of shapes and things like that, but your mind will recognize it as a person can, not always. Sometimes they're just odd shapes and stuff. But your mind can see like dots or something, and it knows, like it will recognize it as like a person that or a place that so it's very it's very surreal. It's like a surrealist painting, and there's a lot of like different kinds of like body changes and different feelings. It can feel textural. And it's a very odd experience. And so sometimes it can make people a little anxious, but you just have to remember to ground yourself beforehand, meditate, and remember that the medicine is going to heal you. It's not trying to hurt you, and that's the way that I approach it. But then after a few treatments, you can get accustomed to it, and you usually are not as anxious. Like, like what it feels like and what the experience is like. And so then you can let go a little bit and you're like, okay. But the ketamine journey can be helpful. You can have some profound insights, but not always. That's not always the case. Usually your profound insights and changes come after treatment. They come in between treatments and later.
Okay.
And because even though the journey is great and everything, or it can be useful, rather, is what I'm trying to say. You don't actually have to feel like you have to work hard, to get therapy or get healing while you're in the journey, because the medicine physically heals the brain. It
I see.
physically allows greater glutamine uptake in the brain and encourages the neurons to reconnect together and grow.
Okay.
And so you get that neuroplasticity that you lose with depression and PTSD and chronic pain issues. All of those things contribute to loss of memories, loss of connection. And so when you receive the ketamine, it grows again, and the connection grows. And so that's how it actually heals you, and that's over time. And so that's why I like to share with people that don't expect, even the first 5 treatments. And you can feel better at 5 treatments. That's actually average. People start to feel better at 5 treatments. But don't get discouraged if it takes you a little bit longer, because it's like anything, like people heal at different rates. And your mind will physically heal, but it takes time, just like any kind of injury you might have. It takes time for a ligament to grow back. It takes time for a bone to grow together again. And it's the same for your brain. So,
Okay. I think we skipped an important part, which is, can you tell us what ketamine is? Because I didn't know. For instance, I didn't know what it was until like last year. And so can you share with us what ketamine is? What it's used for? And
yeah, absolutely. So ketamine is like your standard generic medication. It's used in the hospitals, all the hospitals, 24/7. It's a legal drug. literally, it's used as part of anesthesia, for a normal anesthesia case every day, all the time. But they were able to find out that coincidentally, but that it helps with depression. But this was like years and years ago. They had known this. This has been known knowledge for decades. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. That ketamine can help with depression. And it's just access to it. It's hard to for people because it's not covered by insurance, unless you get a certain one that's the spray one, the Spravato. That one is covered by insurance, and so it's one that can be difficult to access for people, and so I think that's why it's not more widespread. But people don't realize that it's a legal drug, and it's legal to use, and it's legal, with a prescription, it's legal to use, and it's legal to get therapy. Um, and it's okayed by the FDA. It's approved. So, but it literally it's part of anesthesia. When you get ketamine for depression, though, and pain, is not given in it's given in a sub-anesthetic dose. So it's not so much ketamine that you were inducing anesthesia. It's way, way, way below that. You don't want a high dose of ketamine. It does the opposite. It actually doesn't help. You want it to be in the sweet spot. You don't want it to be too little or too much. There's a Goldilocks zone, basically, for the ketamine. And research has shown that that's usually a milligram a kilogram, for most people, is where that lies. So, but it helps with the glutamate uptake in the brain to allow for neuroplasticity to occur, is basically how it works.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people use it for recreational purposes.
Yeah.
And that it's a complete different way of taking it. Like, do they have like a different, like they take it orally, or they take it another way, right? Because this is more like I think it's important. I personally think that when you could have, for example, psilocybin, and you can do it recreationally. I'm not endorsing, I'm not suggesting people that they do it, but you can do, like, people do it, and it doesn't have the same therapeutic effects or even introspective effects as if you were doing it in an appropriate setup. And with ketamine, does it happen similarly?
It's very different.
Okay.
When you do it under, the care of a medical team, it's almost night and day. It's a completely different experience. One reason for that is setting, and intent. And so when you're using it as like a party drug, usually, I don't have a lot of experience with that, but I think people snort it. It's very different because you're not in a safe environment. You're at the whim of other people around you, and I hope that you trust them. Like, it's not a safe environment, so you can't let go. Like, you cannot relax or get some kind of therapy or work done, with the medicine, because it's not the appropriate environment. I mean, that's kind of what I would say to that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes you hear that and you associate it as a what is the word, like derogative, like a condescending way,
Yeah,
because when I heard about it,
Yeah.
I assume like, oh, it's just a drug, but then I learned from you that it's a drug, it's a medicine that you can, people use it in the hospitals. It's not just for knocking down horses.
Exactly.
That's what people say, like it's for knocking down horses. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like,
yeah. No, it's nothing crazy like that at all.
Yeah.
It's getting it, in the appropriate way. It's a completely another story.
I think.
It's another story. And then when you combine that with therapy, and you might still be on your antidepressants while you're receiving ketamine therapy, And that's totally okay. There are actually some antidepressants that work well with ketamine.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? I didn't know.
Yeah. And so, you can be on your antidepressants and have ketamine therapy. And then if you, pair that with, you know, um, having a therapist, while you're getting the ketamine therapy, it just makes it that much more powerful, and heal you that much quicker. It really does speed up healing. That it does very quickly.
Mm.
You can get a decade of therapy in like a year, or less. Like it's like that. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. I want to ask you about the time. How long does it take
Mhm.
this-
For a treatment?
for a treatment?
So for one treatment, we give 2 hours. It takes about an hour and a half on average from start to finish. And so the infusion itself is over 40 minutes through an IV, but there are other ways of taking it. We do prescribe it orally, which can you can be in the journey for a little bit for longer. It can last for maybe 2 to 4 hours if you take it orally because of the metabolism. Um, and then, if you take it, nasally, the Spravato, that's about, probably like a 2 hours session. And then if you do it these are all the different routes. So there's intermuscular, which is a shot in your arm. There's oral, and then there's nasal, and then there's, the IV, form. And so, well, I'll just stick with the IV, since that's what I do every day. I do the intramuscular as well, though. And again, that one, you're probably in the journey for about, I wanna say 20 to 40 minutes. And then it takes longer, for your body to recover from it than your mind. Your mind comes back on first and then your body later. So your body will feel a little weird, like a little bit like you're not in it yet. That can last for another hour, or so.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so the IV goes over 40 minutes through the IV pump. Um, and then it's programmed on a pump, and there's a nurse and doctor with you, to observe and make sure you're safe and attend to any needs that you might have. And, make sure that you're comfortable, that you're not having any kind of distress or anything. And try to make the experience as comfortable as possible for people. So not feeling super clinical, but more warm, and treating it more as, is this person is going through a vulnerable state, being on this medication, so it should be treated sacredly
Yeah.
in that respect. They should be, we should be as supportive as possible to make sure that they're comfortable. So not like a hot, we try to not make it so clinical and more like about that individual person and make sure that they are safe and comfortable. Safety being number one goal
Yeah.
for therapy. With that being said, ketamine is a very safe medication. It has like less side effects than a lot of things do. Um, and yeah, it's pretty safe.
What were the
Mhm.
first things that you noticed
Mhm.
after the sessions, maybe the 5 sessions that you went
Yeah,
to?
yeah. The first thing I noticed, my mood was very labile. So I was kind of up and down a lot for, I want to say, the first 3 weeks, even because while you're doing this, you are uncovering and you're unpacking your trauma, because that's why you're there. And so things come up. You'll start thinking about things that happened to you. And so there's a lot of that, and some anxiety can happen. And so it's very my mood was very up and down at first. But then after that, it started to stabilize, and I noticed that I felt more joyful again, and I felt more energy, and, like, I really started to get my passion back, for life, and that was exciting. That was really exciting for me, like, I was starting to spend time with my kids that I wanted to do so bad, but I didn't have the energy for them or the ability, the strength for them. And then I could, and so that was huge, huge. And that was after the first month.
First month.
Mhm. Mhm.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Does
Mhm.
it help also with anxiety?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, it absolutely can.
You
And it
said
has helped me with my anxiety. I have
okay.
anxiety too.
Okay. You said
Mhm.
also for
Mhm.
pain,
Yes.
right?
Mhm. Yes.
Did you have any pain, or was it just more
No,
mental?
no pain, depression, PTSD, and anxiety.
Okay. How did it
Yes,
help you with the
yes.
PTSD?
So again, like I would ruminate a lot on things, and I would have flashbacks of traumatic events hit me. Some things would trigger it. And as I got treatment, those ruminations, those bad thoughts, and those flashbacks started to lessen and lessen and lessen until now, now I'm at a point where I barely have them anymore. Yeah, so it's huge. Huge.
Wow.
Mhm.
What about sleep? Did you notice any changes in your sleep?
Yeah, so for me, sleep has it's better than it used to be. I still have insomnia. I still have a hard time, sleeping. But I would say it's a little bit better, but it still could be a lot better. I still have issues with sleep.
With sleep.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you go once a month.
Right, once or twice a month. Mhm. And I
Okay.
get the shot. I get the intermuscular
Okay.
just because that's what's affordable for me right now. The IV is a little bit more. I prefer the IV personally, because it lasts longer and you're in it longer, and it doesn't feel there's differences in the way it's absorbed. And so when you get the IV, it's more it feels only way I can describe it is it feels smooth. It feels like more smooth. And it's not so abrupt. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like over time, because it's programmed on the machine, so it's, like, gonna go over that amount of time. When you get the intermuscular, it's more of a bell curve, so it's like, "Whoop, whoop," and, like, you're in it, you're just take off like a jet plane, and then you come down really quick,
Mhm.
and so it's a little more jolting, but it still does the job, you know?
Okay. Do you
Mhm,
remember everything
mhm.
that you go through when you're in the
No.
No, okay.
No, you don't, and most people don't. It's a kind of a dreamy kind of state.
Okay.
Um, most of the time you won't remember too much. You'll just know that something happened,
Wow.
something profound. Like sometimes people, including myself, will feel a sense of something was profound. Something there was a message, like it was really important, but they couldn't quite grasp it or they couldn't bring it back. They couldn't
Okay.
really remember it.
But you do
Mhm.
unpack the things that may have been shifted during the session
Yeah,
as time
later.
goes by.
Yes, yes.
Did you have it like
Mhm.
through dreams, or is it coming like in flashes during the day, or
It's both.
both? Do you have
Mhm.
epiphanies? I like how
Mhm.
did you
Yes.
experience it?
In
Oh,
epiphanies. Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
It hits you later. It's like you don't lose whatever you learned in there. It just maybe won't come to you in that second. Like it
Okay.
will come to you later.
Okay.
But I have had but that being said, I have remembered things um in certain sessions,
Mhm.
that I will never forget. So, that were very amazing. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting. I
Mhm.
haven't done it yet, but
Mhm.
I mean, as
Mhm.
I As I talk to you, it sounds very,
Mhm.
very magical, interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Having heard about your personal story
Mhm.
and knowing where you're at right now, I
Mhm.
think it's pretty amazing. And I
Mhm.
don't know if you feel open to sharing about that, because
Mhm.
for me, when we talk about trauma,
Mhm.
we may be using the word wrongly. We may be saying like, "Oh, that was so traumatic," and it was like somebody stood you up,
Right.
right? It's like,
Right.
well, that's not really
Right.
traumatic, but
Right.
it might have been stressful, but
Right.
definitely traumatic.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
So when I talked to you, I was like, okay, like this is really, really deep, and I'm so sorry that you have gone through such difficulties.
Yeah.
But in the context of this conversation, I believe it's important to share that you had gone through something super, super dark. Is that
Yes.
a proper word?
Do you want me to speak on it a little bit?
Whatever you
Yeah,
feel
I
comfortable
can.
with. Okay.
I'm comfortable with it. Yeah. So yeah, I've gone through a lot. My mother is autistic. Pretty severely autistic. And she raised me. When my father killed himself when I was 7, he shot himself in the head, and I lost him. And my mother raised me, and she shouldn't have. I should have been, you know, adopted or something, whatever, because my mom was on disability and didn't know how to take care of the house, manage the house. I lived in filth. I didn't have any food. There were times I didn't have electricity and I was eating cockroaches. And I was bullied in school because I smelled all the time and my hair was never done. And so I was bullied a lot. And and then I was molested by the janitor at school. And then subsequently, when I turned 12 and a half, um, my uncle's friend, who was 50 at the time, Caesar, my uncle asked him if he would help me and my mom because we were starving. And and so Caesar would bring us food and bring me toys and all of these things. And then he raped me. Um, and ended up, you know, living with him for 30 years until he died like about 2.5 years ago at the age of 80. And I had 3 children with him. My first child I had when I was 14 years old. He is 30 now. And yeah, he was very abusive, and he had some kind of mental illness because but he was never diagnosed. But he was very delusional, and very abusive physically at first, and then towards the end of his life more mentally when he wasn't as mobile. Um, and so yeah, it was a very I've had a hard life. It was very hard. I did what I could for my children. That was my grounding point for my entire life, honestly, is my children. Um, Even though I had them so young and didn't know what the hell I was doing, um, I loved those kids. I freaking love my kids so much with all my heart, and I would do anything for those kids. So I've always lived in poverty, until I became a nurse, but now I'm back in poverty again, trying to get on my feet again. But, I've always undergone that, struggle too, on top of everything else, because my husband, who was 50, married me in Las Vegas with my mother's consent when I turned 16 so that he wouldn't get in trouble for having raped a 12-and-a-half-year-old girl and subsequently grooming her. And my mother should never have been allowed to give consent because she is autistic. But it happened. And he groomed me. He had me under such a powerful spell that I could not leave him. Even though I had tried several times, I was trapped and I did not have resources out. And that's what a lot of women go through that have gone through violence and have gone through things like this. They don't have resources sometimes to get out of situations. They can't just up and leave. And people don't understand that, I think, and that's just wrong, that people don't understand that. It's not always possible, to get out of a situation, even if you want out. And so I was the breadwinner for our family, always. He never worked. He faked being disabled, until he really was, when he got older and he let himself go and got diabetes and couldn't walk anymore. But yeah, I was probably like 15 years old and I was helping overhaul cars and on food stamps and just doing anything we could do to have food. Living in my father-in-law's house, with him and my husband and my kids, which was a very run-down home, which we had all kinds of rodents and insects. And at one point we had a beehive living in the wall, and you could hear them through the wall, and the wall was hot, and the honey started coming through the wall. So it was just that rundown. Like the kitchen sink literally would electrocute me because it wasn't grounded right, and it was a big metal sink. The house was built in, like, I want to say the 1950s, or really old. So the house was just let go and black mold everywhere. It was just terrible. So kind of grew up in that mess, and then but yeah, then I became a nurse's aide when I think as soon as I was like legal that I could do a nurse's aide program. So I can't remember now if I was like 18. I think I was like 18 or 19 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I became maybe I was 20. I'm not really sure. But I went to school to become a nurse's aide first. I got my nurse's aide license, and then I started working to support everybody. And when I worked, I ended up working in the hospital a lot, and I was called back a lot, especially into the intensive care unit, because the nurses really loved my work ethic. They loved my personality, and they wanted to hire me because at first I was working through like a registry. So I was a temp worker. So I would go in and fill in when they needed work. I worked for a temp agency. And then once they saw how I did things, they hired me. They're like, "No, we want to hire you." And then I worked that way for, I want to say 4 years or 5 years. And then while I was working, the nurses were encouraging me to become a nurse. They were like, "You will be a fabulous nurse. Like, we really want you to go to nursing school." So they really like pushed me and encouraged me and out of my comfort zone, because I didn't think I really wanted to. I didn't think I could, be that smart. Like, I didn't think I could do it. But they were like, "No, no, like, you're gonna be fabulous." And so I did. I went to nursing school while working full time, which you're not supposed to do because nursing school is a full-time job in itself. But I put myself through nursing school with scholarships. I met like a senator, and gave a speech to get a scholarship at USD. I got some federal aid, some FAFSA. And I worked full time and put myself through nursing school.
While also having your kids.
Yep, also having my kids.
Wow.
Yeah. But and then I graduated and became a nurse, but that whole time, again, my husband had control over me. So I was not allowed to leave the house. I was not allowed, other than school and work, and he would drive me usually. So he had complete control, of where I was at all times. And so,
Oh.
yeah, it's
Wow, and look at you now. I mean,
mhm.
such a resilience and will.
Thank
I
you.
wonder about your faith.
Mhm.
How
Mhm.
has it been that
Mhm.
experience for
Mhm.
you?
So, I do believe I grew so at some point in my life, I've been many things religious-wise. I was Catholic for a little bit, when I was really young, and then, I ended up, um, not being Catholic anymore. I just stopped going, to Catholic school and to Catholic, church. And then I wasn't really anything for a while, and then I was Mormon for, like, 3 years, which is, like, in my 30s.
Okay.
And that was okay, like, they're good people. It is culty, but they're good people, and so they mean well. And then I've been, in and out of, like, just traditional, like, your average Christian, church. Um I I don't know how I feel right now. I'm still, like, indecisive, about if we go somewhere after life or not. But my heart says we do, and from what I've experienced, I wanna believe that there's more after we pass. I genuinely want to believe because of how I feel and the things that I've experienced. So I wanna say I believe there's God, whatever God might look like, but then my scientific part of me is like, "Oh, we just rot in the ground and we're organic, nothing happens." And then the other part of me is, "Wait a minute. There's too many things that are inexplicable that have happened to me and that I have heard from other people about that tell my heart, that no, there's more." So
During the ketamines, you don't tap into that sort of energy,
you
or
do.
could you?
Oh, no, you totally do. You
Okay.
totally do. You can feel that sense of, like, belonging, that sense of expansiveness,
Okay.
that sense of, we're connected, like a connection. You grow a sense of a connection with other beings.
Has it helped you
Mhm.
to also forgive and find
Yes.
peace with your past?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
Yes, I've been able to forgive my husband. I have been able to forgive my father and my mother, and myself, because it's crazy as it sounds because, I have been a victim, right? But I still, like, you know, wish I would have been a better mom and done better for my kids, and so I have a lot of guilt, that I would hold on to, but I'm getting better and, to forgive myself and understand that I did the best I could with the knowledge and the resources that I had at the time, and my intention was always to be there for them and be the best mother that I could possibly be, and so with that understanding, I am getting better at forgiving myself. I would like to talk about Muay Thai a little bit
Yeah, go
because
ahead.
that's a huge piece of my life.
Okay, go ahead.
So, things started moving and changing for me when I started training for Muay Thai.
Can you tell us what it is?
Yes, so Muay Thai is the national martial arts and sport of Thailand. And so it's their national sport like football is for America. And it's amazing. It's
Okay.
amazing. And so I was not looking for martial arts. I was not looking to do any kind of self-defense, believe it or not, at all. I was trying to lose weight and feel better. And this was after my ketamine treatments that I started to receive. So I walked in a gym, I saw them training, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what Muay Thai was. And when I saw them, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I love this. This is what I need to be doing.
Okay.
And I've been doing it for years now, and I compete, I fight.
You compete?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Are there any videos or something out there? Or is there any of this information about you competing or anything out there?
On my IG
account.
account. And I have a big national tournament coming up in Arizona at the end of March. And I will be competing against the best in all of America. It's a national tournament.
What?
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
So how different is it from other martial arts, like for instance karate? Or
it's very different. It's really its own thing, but I can relate it to people through like kickboxing. Okay, if you've ever seen a professional kickboxing bout in the ring with gloves, like a boxer has gloves, they're in the ring. It's sort of like kickboxing on steroids. Because with Muay Thai, you're allowed to throw knee strikes and you can hold people upright. You can't, once they go to the ground, you have to reset. But while you're upright, you can hold on to them. You can throw elbows. You can knee them. And so it's very, very brutal.
Oh my God. Is that why you said you have like the bruising in your knees?
Yes, this is why my legs look like they do.
Yeah, because you said some word and I was like, I don't know what she said, but she just has some bruises. It's fine. Yeah. I also have some bruises, but from doing a dance class just this weekend. Wow.
So I would encourage, I just want to encourage people to, especially when you're trying to heal, look for something that gets you fired up. Look for a hobby that you just want to do all day, that you are so passionate about. Find that thing, to get you up in the morning. That is my recommendation. Muay Thai has helped me because it has grown. I have grown into the woman through that, and with the assistance of the ketamine helping me as well, and therapy. It has helped me to grow into the strong, confident woman that I was always there. She was always there, but she was like hidden in there, trying to survive. And now I'm blooming, now I'm flourishing, and I have learned respect, determination, courage, overcoming obstacles, and self-trust, self-worth, self-confidence through Muay Thai. It has been my letter stone, like my cornerstone, to my life and through it. And along the way, it's a whole community. Like I have built a community of colleagues and teammates that help me, and encourage me and push me, and I do for them too. And, I've been doing it for so long now that I'm starting to show new people how to do it. And it just makes my heart feel so good to share it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
I want to check out the videos in your Instagram. I don't have you yet.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've touched upon so many different things. Thank you again for opening up and sharing your whole story. I'm sure that you will inspire someone or help someone because, I mean, it's just incredible. Seriously.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
That you found Muay Thai.
Yes.
Muay Thai?
Yep.
Muay Thai. And the ketamine, the community. And yeah, I'm really happy. So before we close up, I prepare a little game.
Okay.
Let me grab my computer. I mean, it's a rapid fire.
Okay.
In Spanish, it's the 5 seconds to the truth. Cinco segundos para la verdad.
Oh.
And it's just I'm
Love
gonna,
it.
I'm just gonna set up the timer and you're gonna say whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay. What motivated you to consider ketamine therapy as part of your healing adventure?
My kids.
Okay. Describe your experience with ketamine in one word.
Resilience.
Okay. A song that always lifts your spirit up.
My kids.
A song?
Oh, a song.
A song, yes.
It's I'm Not Afraid by Eminem.
Okay. A common myth about mental health.
Oh, that people can just wish their way out of it.
Okay. Something that people believe about ketamine and it's not true.
It's illegal.
If your healing adventure were a movie, what genre would it be?
Ooh, action.
Yay! You got it. We have 4 seconds left. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was such a
My
pleasant,
pleasure.
Present.
Yeah.
Pleasure. A pleasure.
Yeah.
And is there anything else you would like to add up before we wrap it up?
I just hope that, by sharing and allowing myself to be very vulnerable today, that I'm able to inspire and help somebody out there, and to know that you're worth it and it's not too late. And please don't give up hope. Don't ever, ever give up hope. There is a way and you can find it. You absolutely can. So just keep on plugging along and you're worth it. You're strong. You can do this.
Yeah, you can do this.
Mhm.
We can do this.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And I'll add up the information about Sarah if anybody wants to contact you, maybe your email
Yeah.
or however it may be best for you to get in touch with each other. I'm sure that Sarah will be more than open to share
Absolutely.
a bit more about it and where you could try ketamine out. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao.
Ciao.